This is out of the Vishnu Purana. It says, every living being takes birth and suffers a lot while passing his life through childhood, youth, and old age. The end result of life is nothing but death. It is one's karma that accompany him birth after birth. But in every birth, this soul mistakes hunger, thirst, cold, and hot for pleasures. More of the luxuries one collects, more of the sorrow increases. Attachment and passion are the greatest cause of sorrow. Even after passing a life that is full of sorrow, one suffers the agony of death and rebirth again. This whole cycle continues again and again. God is the ultimate refuge for the soul, which feels drowned in the ocean of sorrow. The soul has no distinct stages in life, but a human being is inflicted with a lot of misconceptions. In the childhood, he prefers to play than contemplating on God. In youth, lust and carnal pleasures attract the mind. Still, a human being does not get serious about his benefit. He keeps on postponing his spiritual matters for his old age. But in old age, a human being has no option but to see his trembling fingers and repent about his past. Thus, a human being spoils his whole life. A wise person, hence, must ignore the different stages of his body, stay on earth, and make efforts for his benefit right from his childhood. Okay, this is out the Mahatma. It says, in childhood, one is in ignorance, in youth, vanquished by women. Next, one remains worried by one's wife. What can the meanest of men accomplish? Riches please not, but give only cycles of worries, just as houses with children and women cause danger. So basically what we're dealing with this scripture and with that video clip, that's a random video clip, I think, from MTV. But basically, what's interesting is that you see that they show at least about 4 to 5 seasons, about 2 to 3 shows about these young couples in their teenage years where they basically mess up their life. They jeopardize their future by having children at a young age, like 16, 17. And we know in the black community, it can be as young as like 13 and 14, you know. But age really doesn't matter, and the reason why I say the age of the couple giving birth to their children doesn't really matter, because in the ancient world, teenagers about the age of 16, 17 in the ancient world, most married couples got married and had children around that age. It's in modern day that we move it up to about 20, 23, 21, 23, and even now, in today's time, past the 90s, they say like the 30s, in your 30s. But the point I'm making, though, outside of the age, is just these children are born out of wedlock. They're born out of marriage, meaning the couple isn't married. And the couple, and what marriage basically is in a indirect meaning, is the union of two families or two villages or two people and two cultures to give birth to a whole new reality, basically. So that's what marriage basically fundamentally started out as. Not just two couples that are in love and want to spend their life together, but two villages. But with breaking all of that down, I'm trying to show what I'm trying to get out of that clip, that video clip, that show, is that we see that the young girl basically is regretful right out the gate, and the young dude, the young guy, is regretful right out the gate of having a child as soon as she gets pregnant. They don't even know, they don't even have no concept of what will happen in the future, what will be the circumstances of their actions. They have no concept of it. And that's crazy. So what is it? If it's not intellect, if it's not their mind, if they didn't decide, they didn't make their decisions based on their mind or based on intellect or knowledge, then what did they base their actions on? And so this is the danger of human biology. This is the danger of the sexual impulse that's inside of humans and animals. So when people say, why did the ancient world criticize sexuality? Why did the spiritual masters all renounce sexuality and all this? Because you have to understand that that's a biological beast or a biological possession that's innate inside of our human anatomy. So you could be 10 years old, and as soon as puberty comes in, you're possessed by this spirit and you can't control it. So with these two kids, this young couple, it's an obvious point I'm trying to make here, that they had no control over the sexual impulse. And it doesn't matter if you want to blame them and say they were irresponsible, they were reckless. It's too many. It's too big of a percentage of adults, whether they under the age of 18 or above it, that's having children irresponsibly. So it's way too big of a percentage for us to just dismiss these youth as just being reckless. So what is this? What is this issue here? The ancient world, what they realize is they have to regulate this impulse, this energy, at a high level, to a high extreme level, to be able to keep civilization and the social system together. But slowly, this regulation and this control slowly started to dwindle away and chip away until we are where we are right now, where we basically, it's a free for all, and what that will cause is social collapse and the collapse of the civilization. But worse than a society collapsing is the people in the society suffering, meaning the children that are born from these relationships. So basically, we see that the young girl who got pregnant, you gotta understand that she has to deal with the double standards, or the illusion of all of the people in her family, all of the people in society, all of the people at her school, all of the people in her life living a double life. So everybody has to act like sexuality is innocent, it's easy to handle. It's not like you can get addicted easy to it. So it's all of these preconceived ideas that it's very much natural, and you'll only do it when you fall in love, and it's safe, it's not dangerous, it's not like fire. And she's the one who gets burnt by it, but no one comes to protect her or to warn her that she'd be in that level of uncontrollable mind state when she's under puberty and under those hormones, where she'd ruin her whole life basically. Let's just keep it 100 and keep it $150. And when I say ruin her life, we're talking about she cannot undo the birth of the child and what the child will have to deal with based on the circumstances. And she can't undo being in union with this young dude for the rest of her life. That's forever, you see. So she can't undo that. So that's probably the biggest, besides murder, rape, and basically gambling. Those are the worst things, mistakes you can make in your life. Having a child out of wedlock, or having an unwanted child, an undesired child. What the scripture that I just read was talking about, that basically even if it's a perfect, arranged, premeditated marriage, it's still suffering and bondage, complete suffering and bondage. And it's a distraction from God. So if it's an imperfect relationship, or it's not a relationship where the child is born in a marriage, but it's out of wedlock, imagine the level of hell and the level of distraction and bondage they would have to experience, this couple will have to experience. So what I'm really just doing is drawing a dichotomy between reality and the illusion. The illusion is the media, CNN, Fox, all of these sitcoms, all of these TV shows, these reality shows, all of the adults that you may see in these school systems, at your job, all of these people at your job, and all your whole family, all of them are basically living a double life in line. So the reason why her parents and all of these adults would live this double life is because they don't want to show how much in bondage they themselves are under this sexual impulse. So they're ashamed of it. So they don't want to tell you, you need to watch out of this energy, of this strong, intense energy. Is going to be the most powerful energy you're going to feel throughout your whole life, and it could easily burn you, easily. They don't want to have that serious talk with her. They might have sexual education, but see, that sex ed is really just lighthearted. We all went through sex ed, so I know that it was really just lighthearted. They don't really warn you. The most they say is, here, just take condoms and protect yourself. But it's not realistic to the. It doesn't really measure the threat of what the sexual outcome really is when we deal with society. So with that being said, that's why I basically showed those scriptures. So the holy and ancient texts from the ancient world, from holy men and holy women in the ancient world, they realize the dilemma of sexuality, and how if it's not controlled and not acknowledged for how dangerous it is at an early age, and not exposed to the children of how dangerous it is, they could collapse society, and it can ruin their personal lives and ruin the life of the child. So with that, basically, I'm yeah, and so basically, I'm just trying to make it clear that it's the whole concept and illusion that basically God is the one who's creating all of these children, and that we're all created by God. But the reality is, it's our parents that are creating us, and they can create us through bad circumstance or evil circumstances. Meaning, it's just lust, it's just sex. It's not love, it's not God, it's just sex. And so, in that realm, in that space, is if you want to know why we're all suffering and why there's so much pain, warfare, poverty, regret, animosity, envy, all of these negative spirits, they're all born out of that sex act. And it all starts right there with those two being too immature to know how powerful the sexual energy is, and jeopardizing their life. And now that young dude has to spend the rest of his life not able to get spiritual liberation or practice spirituality for real, because most of his money, it's going to be a lot of money. It's about $250,000 to raise one child. So he's probably going to have about 3. So that's almost damn near $1 million. So children are expensive. And you're going to need to provide more than just medium to give them an even better life, meaning pay for college and pay for these other things. So the point is, you put yourself in bondage. He put himself in bondage at the age of like 16, 17 for the rest of his life. You only got this one life where you're born in here. And that big of misstep or that big of a mistake, you literally owe that much. You see, you owe that much of a price just for that small act. You see, so it doesn't really measure. The juice isn't really worth the squeeze. So what I'm doing is putting things in perspective and helping us understand the holy path and how we can realize God and move toward God, which is really within our own body, which is our own soul. But you can't do that if you're trapped in the external world and everything you're dealing with is external. If you get caught up in the net and the web of the external world. And a very key way how you get trapped in that world is through the sexual impulse, which comes in through, like I said, puberty. So this couple is a good example of basically how the net of Maya, or the net of illusion of this world, can get you trapped in these big mistakes early, and you have to pay for the repercussions. Meaning you have to labor for the rest of your life, and you're distracted from things that could have been way much more valuable. But now you can't do much more than just live a householder's life. You can't aspire to higher things or higher realms because you're so distracted from day to day. So with that, hopefully y'all understand the difference between the illusion and the reality. So the reality is that is the root of all suffering. That is the root of all burden and bondage and confusion and resentment and sadness and depression and everything. That's the root of it all. It all starts there. Either you're the child born of that, or you are the parents that have caused that. That's the only scenario that exists. So with that, the general message is basically renounce sexuality, especially unregulated sexuality, and seek God.